Hello, Rosemary Poklar, and welcome to the Slovenian Australia channel.
Thank you very much, Adrian.
Your participation and activity in the Slovenian community in Adelaide is enormous. You are involved with broadcasting on the Slovenian radio program here on 5 EBI, where we are. You are involved with the Slovenian Catholic Church and the Slovenian Club Adelaide. Why have you devoted so much time, and I should say voluntarily, to the Slovenian community here in Adelaide?
Oh, it's a very good question, that one. I suppose initially because I was asked. I was asked, could I help out with presenting an item or two on radio, for example, and it then just snowballed from there. The same at the club and at church. They've asked. I've served on the committee, so it was at a time when they were running or trying to find committee members. So I was asked, would I mind helping out? So I thought, well, for a year, I can make a commitment for a year, and I help out when I can. If I can't, if I have something else on, well, I just say so. People are very understanding of that. But yeah, I suppose because I was asked, and if I don't have a really good reason for saying no, I don't feel right saying no.
Both your parents are Slovenian. Where in Slovenia are they from?
Mum and Dad are from two villages near Ilirska Bistrica, and so a lot of people might recognise Ilirska Bistrica. Dad is from Podgraja and Mama is from Zabice, so they're about 10 k's out from Ilirska Bistrica and near the Croatian border.
When did they come to Australia?
Dad arrived in 1955 and Mum arrived in 1957.
You have been to Slovenia a number of times. What do you like about visiting Slovenia?
It is the most beautiful country, and you have such diversity and such beauty in such a small area. As Australians, we're used to travelling long distances to see something or to do something or for pleasure, basically. In Slovenia, in an hour and a half, you can go from one end of the country to the other, and it's just so scenic. It's unbelievable. And for me, the other attraction is visiting relatives. Mum and Dad, our family, I suppose, is quite nuclear in that respect. We don't have aunts and uncles and cousins here in Australia. We have like extended relatives, like second and third cousins, but it's not the same relationship. So one of the things that I look forward to most when going to Slovenia is catching up with my aunts and uncles and cousins. And our very first couple of trips as a family, I got to meet my grandparents as well. Even my great-grandmother on Mum's side. I met her twice. Wow. Yep.
That was great.
Yeah.
Do you have any favourite places that you like going to?
Oh, favourite places. I suppose I have a fondness for the valley where Mum and Dad are from, the valley in between Bistrica and where they live. Bled is always picturesque. And Vintgar, the Trenta Valley. Very pretty, yeah.
You have also attended Slovenian government-sponsored seminars in Slovenia. Which ones have you gone to?
The very first one that I was given the opportunity to attend was the media conference. So it's termed for journalists, people involved in media. So I loosely took that to include my participation as a volunteer on Slovenian radio, and at the time I was also helping out a little bit more with the Slovenia SA newsletter, which you produce. It's a very good job, by the way. So that was for a week, and we did an excursion into Italy, and we went into Ciudad, I think it was, and we saw how we met with people who produced the Novi Matajur newspaper. We also had seminars with radio people, with Radio RTV Slovenia, so with Radio Television Slovenia. So we had lectures from them, like on pronunciation and stuff like that. We went all over and did all sorts of things, so very fascinating. The second one that I had the opportunity to attend was the archiving seminar, and we don't officially have an archivist here in Adelaide, or at that time. So because Veronica Folia, when she was here studying, started up an archive, the basis of an archive. And then she left because for personal reasons. Life takes you in different directions. And so I went along to the archive seminar and learned a fair bit. I also had the opportunity at the same time to nominate for a Australian National Library seminar on archiving, which was targeted at migrants. Learnt an awful lot more on that one. But so nominally, my sister and I are meant to be setting up an archive for the Slovenian community here, but we just don't have the time at the moment. Just don't have the time. So,
why do you think these seminars are valuable, the ones in Slovenia?
They're valuable from the point of view of establishing contacts, because those contacts can then help you with information and stuff like that, and lead you to other contacts. Also, they're prepared to share their knowledge with you, which you may not be able to find easy avenues of gaining that knowledge here in Australia. You may not know where to turn, or it might not be applicable to us as a community. They're interesting. And of course, then you also build up contacts not only with people in Slovenia, but with the other migrant communities around the world. So, you get to, in the media one, I got to spend time with Tanya Smodel, who runs SBS Radio now, with Lenti Lenko. Lenti was also on that media seminar. Meta Lenarčić was there. Stanka Gregoric, who then moved to Slovenia. Florian Alsa was there. And then we met people from Argentina in particular, other parts of Europe and stuff. So it was fascinating to listen to them, to their history, to the problems that they meet, and a lot of them are very similar to ours, and some are different.
Focusing now on the Adelaide Slovenian community, I take it you got introduced to the community by going to functions with your parents, like most of us.
Yes.
At what age did you go from being that someone in the audience to the person on the stage, so to speak?
Oh.
Can you sort of remember what you did, or when it was, or what kind of event was it?
I suppose because we started going reasonably, well, not reasonably late, but I was probably early teens before we started going semi-regularly to the club, and the first involvement would have been with Slovenian school in the club. So then going to the stage then would have been performing for Mother's Day, Father's Day, that sort of thing. I can remember the late Olga Oral teaching us, and I had to memorise O Verba by France Prešeren and get the right cadence and the right accents in the right places and stuff like that. So I suppose, that would be, so school, Slovenian school, and performing for Mother's, Father's Days, that sort of thing. And then gradually going on from there.
Why is Slovenianness important to you?
To me, it's a part of my heritage, a part of my history, and I think we're all made up of bits and pieces from our past, of our past history, our family histories. I think if you look at programs like Who Do You Think You Are, and programs of that ilk, it's fascinating to look back in a person's history and to see where they've come from, and potentially what influences were present in the past and have manifested again in their lives. And I've always felt that to be true. And so to me, to not acknowledge and to celebrate to some extent where I've come from, like to cut out the Slovenian part of my heritage, would mean that I'm not wholly me, because it is a big part of me, both family-wise and it's not so much as being Slovenian, we're from Slovenia. It's my history, it's my family, and it's all tied up with arts and crafts and just everyday life. So what
is it about this Slovenianness that you would like other Slovenian Australians to see?
That's a tough question. primarily because I can see that for everyone it will be different. And for some people it may not be as important, you know, their past, or they may not see their past as being important to their future and to who they are. And so I acknowledge that everyone's different. But, you know, it would be nice to, and the thing is, they do celebrate bits of, even though they don't realise it, you know, so some of the traditions like St. Nicholas and things like that, we celebrate. You grew up with these traditions in our families. And so we celebrate them even when we move away from home and marry and have children, and we introduce some of these traditions, we carry them on. So I suppose to acknowledge, you know, that they also have a past that has helped shape them for their future. Good evening, dear listeners. You're listening to the Slovenian program on ethnic radio station 5EBI FM. My name is Rosemary.
About your involvement in Slovenian radio, when did you start and how long have you been broadcasting?
I first started, I know that I did the odd piece or two way back when the studios were still off Henley Beach Road. Because I distinctly remember Peter Orrell taping a show, and I'd been asked to do a piece. So that's an awfully long time ago. I don't know exactly when that was. So I did bits and pieces here and there. I didn't get really involved until after I moved back from Canberra. I moved away from home for 2.5 years. I lived and worked in Canberra. And when I moved back, I gradually, over, 2 or 3 years, got involved, first just reading individual pieces, and then gradually reading more, and then taking over responsibility. So it's been a while.
So how many years would you put to?
Well, I've been in the public service just on 30 years, just over 30 years. So it'd be close to 30 years. So let's pick a number, let's say 25. Near enough will be good enough.
You currently run the Wednesday night program. How is your program structured?
Pretty much, because I took over the Wednesday program from Patrianas, so I've pretty much followed the same sort of structure that he had, not all of the same elements, but the structure is to provide some news from Slovenia, then some sort of theme piece, a motif of some sort, something that I think might be interesting for people. And then I've introduced, as a stopgap measure, if I need a bit of fill, I've gotten like almanac data, so basically, you know, what's happened on this day in the past. So I'll do a bit of mix and match if there's news for the community that we need to promulgate, like now that we don't have a regular Sunday Mass. It helps people if we remind them when Mass will be on so that they can come to church. The same with club announcements for when we have concerts or things like that, or special presentations. So it's, I suppose I think technically the term might be classified as a magazine style program.
Do you have a religious content as well?
Not per se. And I may report on religious things. It depends. If something is in the news that's interesting, I will do that. I will do biographies of people, and they could be religious or not religious, particularly if they've had a big influence on Slovenian cultural history. So if I do bios, yeah, they could be religious people. But religious content per se, no.
You broadcast the show in Slovenian and sometimes in English as well. How did you learn Slovenian so well?
Oh, I don't know about... I read Slovenian well. I make this distinction. There's speaking Slovenian when you ad lib and you have to conduct a conversation, and there's reading Slovenian. And I read Slovenian well, and that comes with practice. And the practice... I remember when I first started doing pieces for the radio, I would ask, could I have the material 2 or 3 days before? So that then I would bore my mother or my father to tears by reading it to them, getting them to comment on had I put the accent in the right places. So my early pieces had little underlinings where the accents were meant to go. And until gradually you get a feel for it. And, you know, within 2 or 3 years, I wasn't getting the pieces 2 or 3 days before. I was getting them on the night. And then if I was lucky, I had a quick glance through to see if there were any really hard words that I needed to have a look at.
Najprej na vrsti so poročila. Zimska olimpijska pravljica v Sočiju se nadaljuje. Izkupiček 11. dne na olimpijskih igrah je naslednji. Biatlonec Jakov Fak četrti, premagana avstrijska hokejska reprezentanca z rezultatom 4:0 in nova olimpijska prvakinja v veleslalomu. To je seveda naša alpska smučarka Tina Maze, ki je dokazala, da je v odlični formi. Na zimskih olimpijskih igrah je osvojila še drugo zlato kolajno, je pa to sicer že 6. olimpijska kolajna za našo državo na teh igrah. Imamo 2 zlati, srebrno in 3 bronaste, s čimer smo se na lestvici držav pa uspeli na 14. mesto. Mazejeva je z osvojeno zlato kolajno presrečna. Zgodovino so pisali tudi naši hokejisti. V kvalifikacijskih tekmi za uvrstitev v četrtfinale na olimpijskih igrah so premagali Avstrijce s 4:0. Gole so zadeli Anže Kopitar, Jan Urbas, Savo Hudin Kovačevič in Jan Muršak. Slovenija se bo v četrtfinalu pomerila s Švedsko. Ob nadušenju nad takšnimi športnimi uspehi lahko kar hitro pozabimo na težave, s katerimi se soočajo ljudje zaradi poplav. Vodostaji na Notranjskem namreč še vedno naraščajo, dvigujeta se tako gladina Crkniškega jezera kot Planinskega polja. Ogroženi so objekti pa tudi domače živali. Če se bo uresničil črni scenarij in bo voda še naprej naraščala, bo samo na območju planine ogroženih več kot 40 objektov. Predstavniki Agencije za okolje so napovedali, da naj bi se vodna gladina Planinskega polja dvignila še za dodatnih 40 cm.
Now that and for a long time I stood back from actually preparing material. You know, I was quite happy to read material, but having to find material and that. But since having taken over the program, I now also have to source material.
So where do you get your sources from?
My sources from the internet. I'm very lucky in that Patriana's set up for me. I get a daily email from Radio Ognišće with the news. And I since discovered anyone can sign up for that. So that's been really helpful in getting pre-prepared news items, and then I will pick and choose what I think might be of interest to people. Also, if I'm looking for something specific, an update on a particular story or whatever, I'll go to the internet. So it'll be Slovenska tiskovna agencija, or the newspaper Delo, or Radio Ognišće site, or any of the news sites, sil.net. There's a few out there. For a while, I was looking at Morel fairly regularly. It just all depends. And also, I found a couple of online magazines, which particularly one called Ave Maria, which comes from Lamont in the US. Lamont is outside of Chicago. And that magazine covers such a wide variety of material. So it does, every month there's at least one biography on someone, and they're fascinating. Biographies, they've had a long-running series on a Slovenian missionary who went to Africa. They do bits and pieces. Some stuff that I don't use in the show is things on Israel and Palestine and Jewish life in context with, you know, Christians and stuff. And they do all sorts of also political report, some sort of political commentary in that. So if you look for material, it's unbelievable the wealth of material that you can find today on the internet.
Anna Maria Zupancic currently helps you out. When she's on air, what is her contribution?
Anna Maria sources her own material. So that's a pretty big contribution in and of itself, in not having to find, you know, a 5 to 10 minute piece that might be of interest. and also given the restrictions that we operate under, basically it's a Slovenian program, so naturally enough people want to hear about, so it has to be, any piece needs to be connected to Slovenia or to Slovenians in some fashion. So she's pretty creative in finding material, and I know she also finds material from the Slovenia Australia channel, or from the Slovenian Adelaide Facebook side as well. She'll pick up on things and she'll utilise those. So she's been incredible help. She comes twice a month, and it takes just that little bit of a burden away from what I have to do. Anna Maria, what will you be talking to us about tonight?
Something a bit different. A traditional Slovenian wedding.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realise there's lots of little traditions that they have that in Australia we don't have any of them at all.
No, we don't have any at all. Nothing like the Slovenian traditions.
That's right, and they're quite different.
Very different. And as you said too, there are so many of them because each region or each, even probably town, I suppose, might have its own unique twist on some of the traditions.
I think I should probably put this on Australian radio so that they can learn about it. Although lots of us who are born here don't know about this either. Yeah. So every country has unique traditions that take place at the wedding. Most often these are diversified as the customs and religion of the various ethnic groups depending on their backgrounds. Slovenia has such a zest for life and love, and their marriages most aptly depict this. The traditional Slovenian wedding consists of much activity. It all begins in the morning at the bride's house, and I know it changes for some different people.
Yeah.
As the morning progresses, the wedding guests will begin arriving and gathering outside the house. The groom will also arrive here, and he will be asked by the guests to participate in some games that will take place prior to the wedding. Mm-hmm. One of the most favoured of all the pre-wedding games is the kidnapping of the bride, being the most intriguing game. There is such fun and festivity involved in this game. To begin with, some of the male villagers will be within the bride's house, so they're actually in the house. Mm-hmm. Here they'll dress up in the bridal attire pretending to be the bride. Mm-hmm. The objective is for them to exit the house and attempt to trick the groom into thinking that they are his real bride-to-be.
Uh-huh.
Then the groom has to perform some real negotiations for his loved one. Mm-hmm. The groom has to approach one of the bride's male relatives, such as her brother, for example. He has to bribe this family member with money or some type of household appliance in return for the release of his bride. Mm-hmm. Later on, the money or the appliance is given to the bride and the groom as a wedding gift. All the time these festive games are going on, the rest of the guests are thoroughly enjoying them and enjoying the wine.
Oh, yes. Yes. Lot to eat and to drink.
The whole time.
The whole time.
When the groom meets the kidnappers of his bride-to-be, the groom has to prove he is manly enough to take the woman from her village. Some of the feats he has to perform, otherwise he'll have to pay more ransom money until it's produced, and he'll have to show that he can drink his wine with the best of them. Then the groom has to perform the stragna, meaning he must demonstrate his physical strength by sawing a log. By this time, the groom has aptly proven himself to be a fit catch for his bride, and they are ready to start off the ceremonies. So away they go. So he's got his bride, he's got his sawed his log, so he's proved himself, and amongst other things. Have you heard of other things they've had to do?
I've heard of one where they've blockaded roads, so you have to pay a toll to actually get into the village to get to the bride. I've heard of ones where they send out, sort of like the gentleman dressing up inside the house and trying to convince the groom that they're the bride. They'll send out, first they'll send out a little 5-year-old, then they'll send out the grandmother, and he says no. And finally, eventually, you get the bride. What else? Oh, I've heard when my cousin got married, because he married a girl from a totally different part of Slovenia to where we are. And the tradition there is that he has to get a medical checkup. So someone was all dressed up like, as a doctor or nurse or whatever, and they're measuring this and listening to that. Then they had to weigh him, and apparently the bribe or the ransom, whatever it was, his weight of whatever, and and that's how they calculated how much you had to pay to get the bride.
Okay.
Lots and lots of them.
So it's good to know, though, that all the money ends up back for the bride and the groom later.
Yes, definitely.
Good start to the wedding.
How has radio broadcasting changed since you first started?
Oh, here in the studios of 5EBI-FM, they've gradually gotten more and more modern. So we have a different style of mixing desk nowadays. One of the old ones you can still see in one of the older studios, but so we have a more modern mixing desk. We have more modern equipment. We're using mini discs, we're using CDs. There was digital tape as well. We no longer use reel-to-reel tape. When I first started learning, we had to use reel-to-reel tape. We used cartridges, we used records and cassettes. So cassettes are now banned totally because there are too many problems with them. They can stuff up and cause you a technical problem at really short notice, which is not good. If you're taping, you can probably still use them. I think the older studio still has a cassette deck and still has turntables, so we could use records. But otherwise, it's definitely all digital, mainly digital media, and that. So yeah.
I remember years back, some of the programs were pre-recorded. Were you involved with any of that?
In actually doing the pre-recording, no. In actually reading for a show, yes, I've done that. I had done that a couple of times, but and no, I did in the early days when we still had, after I'd gotten my license, so to speak, to run a console. I did actually record on reel-to-reel tape a couple of times. But I tell you what, it's not a fun exercise. Recording on mini disc, on digital format, much easier, much easier.
Than analog.
Oh yeah. You can, to within a half a second, edit your pieces on the digital format and move stuff around and cut stuff out, drop stuff back in very easily, quickly, cleanly. On reel-to-reel tape, no. Reel-to-reel tape was very difficult to cue, to find where you'd made a mistake, and then you'd have to actually just go from there. You couldn't just put in a piece and then continue, because it was too hard. It was too difficult to tell. So,
following on from that, what is the funniest thing that has happened to you on air?
Oh, live on air. Not funny. I've made some classic mistakes. So, in leaving a mic open so you get feedback, or my CD won't play, and getting flustered. So no, mainly mistakes. You know, you laugh afterwards, but at the time it's what's gone wrong? What's gone wrong? So getting over that fear, and always we were taught in training, you can't leave a silence. Dead air is nothing. You cannot leave a dead silence, and so that's, you got to go to panic mode. What went wrong? And you're trying to fix it in a hurry, and hopefully maybe have the presence of mind to at least announce that you have a problem while you're fixing it. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
You run the broadcast equipment while doing your show.
Yes.
You've had training in this?
Yes.
Where did you do the training?
Here at 5EBI-FM. It was 6 months worth of classes. So on a Wednesday evening I think it was for 2 hours. And then also, and that was theory. So there's a lot of stuff around what you can and can't say on radio, equipment and that sort of thing. And then practical lessons as well. And then you had to practice. So we would have practical sessions. So we'd have theory on a Wednesday evening. After first 2 or 3 weeks, we'd then have practical lessons on a Saturday afternoon. And then you would have to book studios and practice. Because back then we were still using reel-to-reel. And setting up reel-to-reel is an art in and of itself. And if you had to, part of the exam at that time was you had to find a piece, cue a piece on a reel-to-reel to then broadcast it. And that was in between doing everything else for your program, your nominal program. Yeah. So you had to do it in between while playing. When you were playing a CD or playing a record, a song, you then have to find the piece on the reel-to-reel and cue it up ready to be used. So reasonably challenging, and then, you know, queuing records and stuff as well. It was a lot more, there was a lot to learn.
The Slovenian program on 5 EBI is on twice a week, Wednesdays and Sundays. Can you tell us about the structure of the Slovenian Radio Committee and who are the other members and announcers?
Okay, well, the president of the Radio Committee currently is Mr. Ivan Legisha. The other announcers, well, on Wednesday evenings it's myself and Anna Maria, and I know occasionally you've come in to help us out with a spot, and Stanka Sintic has also come in and helped us out with a spot, or if I've been away, Stanka's taken my place. On Sunday afternoons, we currently have Vida Conchina does two Sundays a month. One Sunday a month regularly does Stanka Sintic, and Svetka Petrovsky does another Sunday a month. And then when they have a fifth Sunday, occasionally we have 5 Sundays, not 4, that fifth Sunday, Stanka and Svetka swap between themselves. So
you have a general annual meeting?
We have an annual general meeting, and that will be coming up it's usually February, March of every year, so it'll be the 9th of March this year.
If anybody would like to get involved with broadcasting the Slovenian program here, who are they need to contact?
They could talk to Ivan Legisha, they could talk to Vida, they could talk to myself. We'd happily take volunteers. Yes, definitely happily take volunteers. You know, the more people who are involved, the more variety we'll have, and the less dependent we'll be on some individuals.
With the majority of the 2nd, 3rd and now 4th generation only speaking English, how do you think the program will adapt in the future?
Oh, well, I think realistically speaking, the program, if it continues, will have to have more and more English content, or spoken English. Content could also change. For example, if we take a broad interpretation of what the Slovenian program should be, there could still be items on what's happening in Slovenia. There could still be biographies, travel pieces, that sort of thing. But we could also use it to include things that the Slovenian community here in Adelaide, what they might be up to, things they might be interested in. So, for example, you know, promoting WOM Adelaide, the festivals, highlighting for the community here things that will be of interest to them.
If we now move to your involvement with the Slovenian Catholic Church here in Adelaide, why is religion important to you?
It's a part of me. I cannot imagine not practicing my faith. My faith, as I said, it's a part of me. We were brought up Catholic. I attended Catholic schools. Pardon me. Yeah, it's just a part of me, and it's like excuse me for stuttering. I enjoy crafts. I enjoy reading. They're innate parts of me, and my faith is also a part of me. And so the practice of my faith is something that I just do. It's me.
What does it mean to be a Christian?
I think trying to be a good person. It's not just that. It's trying to make, you know, your part of the world a bit better. I mean, sometimes all it takes is a smile. You know, you go through the checkouts. I'm sure people who work on checkouts have really bad days when they get really bad customers and stuff. And I know how much it means to me if someone smiles at me. It just lifts and brightens my whole mood. So I try to do the same, and I think that's what any good person would do. And I think that's one thing, is to try and make the world, your part of the world, that little bit better. Not just for you, for everyone.
How do you tell the voice of God from the voice of the devil?
That I don't know. That I don't know. I've never heard voices. So, no, all I can go is by the teachings of my faith and my own conscience.
What are some of the religious traditions, rituals of the Slovenian Catholic
feast days. So in particular, the biggest feast day would be Easter. So Good Friday and then Easter Sunday. Christmas, the birth of Christ. And then certain cultural traditions have also attached. So things like the Feast of St. Nicholas. It's tied in with the church because he was a bishop, so he was a churchman himself and stuff. So yeah, and there were like things around, particularly around Lent and Easter, the big feast days, and that you have cultural traditions have developed. So for example, before Lent you have, and this is visible in lots of cultures, so this idea of Mardi Gras or Pancake Tuesday. So Slovenians have their own version of that, Kurentovanje and things like that, Pust. And there are lots of different variations depending on where you come from in Slovenia, around Pust in particular.
So is krofi, is that part of that?
Krofi, yeah, krofi is one of the distinct foods, yes, for Easter. I don't know the exact reason why, but I know that is one of them. So in some cultures you have Pancake Tuesday, but for Slovenian it's krofi. Krofi are particularly associated with Easter and that.
Are any of these Slovenian traditions or rituals more important to you than others? Or any of those really special to you?
No, not really. I mean, I celebrate them all equally. So, yeah, none really sort of stands out as being a favourite. They're all part and parcel of the whole thing.
So how do you react when you see hot cross buns 4 days after Christmas in the supermarkets?
I bewail the prevalence of commercialisation. Commercialism, I mean, so yeah, hot cross buns. I've noticed Easter eggs already. So we haven't even had Ash Wednesday, and we've already got Easter eggs and lint bunnies, chocolate lint bunnies out. Come September, we'll have Christmas decorations and stuff out there, I'm sure, as well. So that's just commercialisation. And what can you do?
How are you involved with the Sunday Masses at Slovenian Catholic Church in Adelaide?
Generally speaking, I started out helping out with readings, doing, there are 2 readings and a Gospel reading. So an Old Testament, a New Testament reading, and then a Gospel reading. So I started out doing readings in Slovenian and in English as well. And there was a roster, so I was one of a few people who did readings, and now there were fewer of us. And so yeah, and then I was also privileged enough to become a special minister, so I will help out with communion if it's required.
Wow. When did that happen?
Oh, it's a long time ago now. A very long time ago.
I didn't know about that.
Didn't you?
No.
No, it's been quite a few years.
What does that entail?
Basically, well, knowing when is the right time to go up, and then the washing of the hands and stuff, and how to give communion properly and respectfully, and then if required, having to take communion to the sick, if that's required, and what around that. So yeah, it's
Did you
not
have to
very
do
difficult.
any coursework or anything like that?
Patrianas instructed us. There are a few of us who are special ministers.
Who are the other people?
Mr. Yasenko is one, and I think there are a couple of others, but they're not as active anymore. So, so Patrianas instructed us, and we also received a booklet on what was what and how to do things.
Are you on any other church committees or
No,
representations?
not that I'm aware of.
I see you sometimes helping out at funerals with the priest. What kind of work do you do there?
Well, basically, if at a funeral, like the choir normally sings and stuff, but there are some items that we don't have live performance for. Like, for example, the Tishina, which is normally played when the coffin is carried out. So it's not exactly the last post, but it's an equivalent piece of music to what people might recognise as the last post. The Ticina or Il Silenzio is actually, I think it was an Italian who wrote it, I'm not sure. So for that we have CD, and it's very hard for the priest to be at the altar and at the CD player in the sacristy at the same time to turn it on. So, you know, I help out with the technical side of things occasionally if it's required.
But I've seen you also at the grave sites with...
occasionally, you know, I've been asked to help out with the prayers of the faithful, because one of the items at the gravesite is the prayers of the faithful. Or I've been asked to help out if family members can't do the readings, for example, because it can be a particularly stressful time for families and very emotional. So, you know, they can't manage to do a reading or something like that, much as they would wish to. So, you know, yes, I've been asked in the past to help out with that sort of thing. So,
what so far has been the highlight of your religious life?
The highlight of my religious life? Well, actually, in 2009, I undertook... I wanted to go overseas to see the Oberammergau Passion Play. Now, this is something that only happens once every 10 years. And I took the opportunity... I'd been 20 years before that, and I wanted to go see it again. It was something I really wanted to see again. So, in 2009, I organised a series of pilgrimages, connected them all together, and then at the end was a trip to Germany to see the Passion Play at Oberammergau. And I found it fascinating because on the pilgrimage tours you spend some time praying. We have daily Mass, and you're having Mass in some of the most beautiful places, cathedrals and things, side chapels in cathedrals and stuff like that, and also in some of the humblest, simplest places, and just the atmosphere, and I found it refreshing and revitalising to have that time away and to spend time with like-minded people as well. You also have a lot of fun. You go out to dinner and you know, have a drink or two and hit the shops and stuff like that, but there's also this other element, this additional element. And I saw different parts of countries because on pilgrimage tours you're usually visiting religious sites that are connected to saints or to Our Lady or Christ or whatever, and saints lived in some of the oddest places. So yes, so I saw a fair bit of different countryside.
The late Pope visited Adelaide.
Yes.
Were you involved with that in some way?
I was privileged enough to be one of the people selected to receive communion from Pope John Paul II. So, yes. I have a picture and everything.
Here's one for you. There is life and there is death. What do you think we are here to do in between those 2 points?
As I said before, I think to make the world around us that little bit better a place to be in.
One more for you. When we die, do we A, wake up in heaven, if we've been good, B, in an alternative universe, or C, neither?
I'd like to think that if we've been good, we'll wake up in a place that's better.
Is that heaven?
Yeah.
Turning now to Slovenian Club Adelaide.
Mm-hmm.
How have you been involved with that community?
I have helped out, as a child, as I said, performing for Mother's Day, Father's Day, Bashir and Dun. I have served on the committee, I can't remember, for 1 or 2 terms, I'm not sure. I still continue to help participate in cultural days and presentations when I'm asked and that. I've helped out with when we've hosted the Slovenian concerts. I have acted as an MC, and I've served on various other subcommittees when I've been asked, and if I've been able to, sort of thing. So again, yeah, if I've been able to help out, if someone's asked me to help out and I can, and I could, I've helped out.
Rosemary, you have a degree in computing.
Yes.
From the University of South Australia.
was the South Australian Institute of Technology, but yeah, we'll call it UniSA.
So where do you work now, and what does your day job entail?
I work at the Defence Science and Technology Organisation out at Edinburgh. I'm a middle-level manager, actually base-level manager, so I manage a group of programmers who are developing and redeveloping business applications for the department.
And how long have you been there?
I've been with the DSTO since 1985. Prior to that, I had 2.5 years in Canberra with the Department of Health. Same sort of field. I was actually a programmer for 2.5 years at the Department of Health.
Rosemary, I am sure the Slovenian community would sincerely like to thank you for all the precious work that you have given and all of your time voluntarily. You are making a major impact